So, here we are again. This is hub removal on the Yugo. And anyway, I spared you the process of removing the brake drum, mainly because I'm probably doing it wrong. This is supposed to be some sort of an auto adjuster system, but I don't understand it because I don't see a way that I can adjust the brakes from outside of the drum. So anyway, I take a hammer and a punch and knock the drum off there, and that's probably wrong. Anyway, you can't hear it through this camera, but this hub is noisy, and it's kind of like a British charioteer. It drives me buggy. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is use this puller. You'll notice that I'm hooked up into the what they call the spigot bolt hole. That's that thing there is what they call a spigot bolt. It's basically an aligning pin that threads into the hub that puts your wheel where it belongs. Anyway, so those aren't the lug bolts because I don't want to pull on the lug bolt holes in case something happens. Anyway, just metric 8mm by 1.25 bolts and a plain old OTC puller, and away we go. Anyway, if you look, this bearing can move and click in there, and that just can't be right. Not even at all. Anyway, it's probably been due for one of these for a while. Here's our little spindle. Isn't that cute? Here, to give you an idea, that's a 6-inch crescent wrench next to that little spindle. Anyway, the next step is to get the new hub over here, clean the spindle up, put the hub on, and then there's a process for tightening down the hub and setting the stake nut, which is what we'll see next. So, maybe this is the wrong thing to do, but I'm going to take a little lubber plate. Alright. No good place to put the camera, but here it is, a little lubber plate. I'm going to put it on this spindle. Not that it rotates on here, it should remain motionless on here, but at some point somebody, probably me, will want to take this thing off at some point, and well, probably be a lot easier if it's got a little bit of lubricant on it. Here's our new hub. Look at that high-tech sucker. Anyway, I need both hands to fight it, so see you in the next step. Now the little hub is on, and then we put this little fellow on here, this little washer. And then our next step is there's a stake nut, and anytime you replace one of these, you replace this stake nut and stake it again. That's what this little keyway is about here. You stake the nut into the keyway. Anyway, here's our stake nut. Notice this sub-diameter surface here. That's what you're going to stake on. There's no threads for the first little bit here, and that's good because if you don't take a punch or a chisel with a tip like so, that same diameter, this one's a little bigger. Anyway, and knock that stake out of there before you hit this with an impact to take it off. If there were threads there, it would also take off your threads, and well, that wouldn't be very fun, would it? You wouldn't have threads. Anyway, So in our next step, we're going to torque this here in just a minute. And there's a spec, and I'll say it out loud, so if somebody needs to know it, why, they'll know it. Anyway, see you again in a minute for me and no time for you. So apparently when I go away from the camera, it starts a new video. So here we are. We've got torque wrench set at 159 pounds, and our goal is to torque that little nut right there to 159 foot-pounds. Anyway, here it goes. Anyway, our goal now is to take a chisel. I prefer to use one that's a little dull so I don't just cut it. And put your chisel right there. Now we're going to whack that thing with a hammer till this thing sets down in that little keyway in the spindle. Anyway, let's get close to this. I got a phone call and that hosed my video. So if you look, you can see that that nut is staked into the keyway, and that's what you want. If you read your manual, there's a special tool that actually does this. Looks like a big goofy set of pliers, but that's not really necessary. You can do it with a chisel like a hillbilly. And we got the hubcap, which was pretty toast, the old one, so we're just gonna put this new hubcap on here. And that'll be good, because the old hubcap, it was fairly hammered. Had a gap in it right there that was allowing contamination into the bearing, and well, I didn't really like that. In fact, as it was to get this in there last time, I had to work this on the horn of an anvil to get it out far enough that it would grab again. But there it is. And then for that final hooray I'm done step, there's the wheel back on. I'll torque it, and then I should be good to go.